So a little bit ago, I was watching a video about the 3040 Krag Jorgensen rifle. It was the first magazine-fed bolt-action rifle U.S. military adopted in the late 1800s, and it was one of the shorter-lived rifles that we ever used. The biggest criticism of that was that it was loaded from a side loading gate where you had to put one round in it at a time, where the 8mm, actually sorry, at the time the 7mm clip-fed Mauser, you could put 5 rounds in the magazine with the stripper clip, just pushing down the rounds with your thumb. And the reason that the generals wanted that rifle, the 3040 Krag, is they wanted their troops to see that rifle still being a single shot, but with additional rounds at hand, meaning to not waste their shots. And obviously, we went in the direction of like the Mauser, and had the 03 Springfield, which is basically our interpretation of the Mauser 98. Had the exact same bolt, in fact. And this round right here would have been, with the 03A3, would have used the 30-06, the 150 grain bullet. I remember hearing on a show called Weaponology, in World War II, using the M1 Garands and that round, 30-06, it took something like 33,000 rounds per enemy KIA. And then in Vietnam, for a short while we used this, the 308 or 7.62 NATO 147 grain bullet, and then switched to the 5.56 NATO, which is a 55 grain bullet. Using the M16 and the 5.56 round is something like it was 300,000 rounds per enemy KIA. Now, granted, they get into firefights where it's sort of like trying to move forward, so they have to use like a volume of fire. But I keep thinking back to how, those generals were saying how certain kinds of guns were wasteful of ammunition. Like, they didn't to waste the ammunition in their Krag Jorgensens, and then here we are using almost 500,000 rounds per enemy KIA. Over here I've got the German round. Well, among other countries, Germany used this 8mm Mauser. The 303, which is what England used for the UK forces. 7.62 by 54R, which is what Russia used, and a few other countries. And then Germany came up with a round called 7.92 by 33 Kurz, or short. And Russia pretty much copied it and made this. The Kurz was pretty much cutting this round in half, the casing in half, and reducing the bullet weight. And that's very much just what they did here. The Russians did. And it was a 30-round, had a 30-round magazine. Sorry, dogs are barking. Hush! And with select fire. And that's still largely what we are using now. The German design type weapon from 1944, the Sturmgewehr. That's pretty much what the AK is, and that's, in general, it's largely what the M16 platform is. Sorry. I also remember hearing about how in Vietnam, the snipers I believe we've been using the 308, or the US snipers. They were doing like 1.3 rounds per enemy KIA. Now, granted, they were a specialized kind of soldier, not quite the same as the firefights, but I guess what I'm looking at from the civilian standpoint of, I don't want to say like survivalism or some post-war apocalyptic kind of thing, but just people make such a big deal about magazine capacity and such. But check this out. So here's a 300 Winchester with a 190 grain bullet. It's going about 300 feet a second slower than this 55 grain bullet here. And that's the one where the AR-15 standard capacity magazine is 30 rounds. And a bolt action 300 Winchester, something like 5 rounds. I'm not saying anything bad as far as magazine capacity goes, but I think sometimes we overstate the importance of that over what the rounds themselves can do. Like, for instance, it's a 450 Bushmaster right here. That round there turns the 5.56 magazine, the 30 round magazine, into a 9 to 10 round magazine. I'm kind of more in favor of rounds like this, and this myself. Also because I don't have, the logistics of being resupplied like the military has. That, I think that's a big factor in terms of ammunition that's sometimes overlooked. And there's also obviously different bullet weights for cartridges, such as this, it's a 168 grain hand load bullet, 308, and that's a 147 grain. I guess all I'm trying to say is, don't think magazine capacity is everything, because rounds like this and this, which are kind of the two prevailing cartridges for the the quote-unquote assault rifles, have a very limited range. And this round right here is a little bit behind them, but it'll also take down large animals, whereas those won't. 5.56 NATO is 223 Remington, and that's kind of the round smack dab in the middle of varmint rounds. 204, 223 Remington, and 22-250 are the common rounds for that. This right now has been described as the most popular deer hunting round in my state, Ohio. It's one of the straight wall cartridge states, meaning it doesn't have we're not allowed to use rounds that have that neck. That's kind of like a pistol round, just a straight tube. So anyways, I'm more in favor of big rounds that do a lot more, maybe even go a lot further in some cases, such as that, or this. Or rounds that you're able to hold a whole lot of in a magazine.